Volkswagen is in a world of trouble after the Environmental Protection Agency discovered that they were using tricks in order to pass certain emissions tests. Now, the cars in question here are specifically diesel cars, which is why this whole scandal is referred to as Dieselgate. Now, to give you some more information, on Friday, the EPA said Volkswagen found a way to circumvent emissions requirements during testing with a defeat device that lets the TDI cars detect when they are being tested, and then they emit far less than normal, okay? So basically, these cars are just driving around town and they're emitting all of these pollutants, specifically something known as nitrogen oxide. And as soon as they're being tested, there's this device that basically makes them emit less. Let me give you more information. When the device is not working, the cars are operating in regular driving. They emit 10 to 40 times more than the allowable legal levels of certain pollutants. Compared with other run-ins between the EPA and automakers, Volkswagen's alleged violation stands out in its brazenness. So the incredible thing about this story is the way they got outed, okay? So there was a small organization in Germany, and they were trying to prove that these diesel cars are actually very fuel efficient, and they might be a good model in terms of protecting the environment and also saving energy, saving gas. And they wanted to test out these Volkswagen vehicles themselves to make that point. And in the process of doing that, they found all these inconsistencies. They had absolutely no desire to out them. They actually wanted to defend Volkswagen and all these diesel vehicles, and it turns out that, they were outed, and we found out that they were totally cheating the system. Now, I want to tell you which cars are in question here. They're cars from 2009 and 2015, and includes the TDI Volkswagen Golf, Jetta, Beetle, Audi A3S, and also the Passat.
Okay, so a super interesting story in a couple of different ways. First of all, I'm shocked that it's not about Shaq. I thought for sure Dieselgate was about that. Okay, second of all...
We wouldn't be covering it.
Okay, no, seriously. On the one hand, the apology of Volkswagen and their efforts to try to make this right are significant, okay? So the profuse apologies. The CEO is like, I had nothing to do with it, but I immediately fire myself.
Yeah, the CEO has decided to resign, and he's like, I have no idea. I had no idea this was going on. And look, I'm used to typical American CEOs that lie to us constantly, but the executive board has released a list of what they intend to do to make things right. And throughout that list, they say, look, the CEO had no idea. He's been an incredible CEO, but we respect his resignation, and we're going to go ahead and let him go.
So again, if it was a U.S. company, I'd be enormously skeptical, but a U.S. company would not have dealt with it this way, right? Also in that statement, the board explained that we are going to do our damnedest to find out who made these decisions, and then we're going to help prosecute them criminally, okay? So now, here's how a U.S. bank, for example, would have dealt with it. No, CEO is fine. What are you talking about? No, you guys, it's very complicated. You don't understand, okay? It's your fault for being so stupid that you don't understand that we had to do this, and if you arrest anyone, it will endanger the global economy. How dare you? How dare you? Take it back. Well, okay, fine, I'll negotiate with you. I'll give you back 10% of what I made from this. Okay, that's it. That's my final offer. They'd never fire their CEO. They wouldn't let the CEO resign. None of the CEOs resigned when we had a global economic catastrophe caused by U.S. bank companies and other banking companies as well. And nobody went to jail, etc. So Volkswagen reaction to it is refreshing in that it appears, and you don't know yet, the proof's in the pudding, they haven't acted yet, except for the CEO resigning. It appears that they're going to very aggressively work with the government to root out what happened here. On the other hand, this is not a mistake, okay? It's a piece of software that they programmed. So you can't accidentally program a piece of software to do exactly what you want it to do, which is to defeat environmental regulations. Whoever did it clearly did it on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not like some computer programmer can be like, oh, let me sneak this into the code. Oh, look, if you do this and this on a video game, it turns out you can see her tits, right? Like that happens from time to time, right? In goofy stories. No.
I've never heard of that story, but okay.
Yeah, it's an Easter egg thing or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
On Rand Paul's app, you could play Space Invaders if you hit enough right buttons, okay?
Okay.
So, but this is a car, and in order to have that software and then put it into the car and have everybody agree to put it into the car, it's going to require a lot of people. A lot of people to say, oh, yeah, we're too terrific on, on the environment and the regulations, et cetera. And they've ran a ton of ads about it. And go ahead and put that thing in there, right?
Yeah, and remember, one of their advertisement ideas was to really emphasize the fact that these diesel vehicles are fuel efficient and environmentally friendly, right? So a lot of people out there bought these cars for those reasons. And so they were sold a lie, okay? They're actually driving these cars that are polluting the environment considerably. And also another thing is, look, they probably did this because they want to have fast cars with torque, right? Impressive torque, but at the same time, probably save some money. But they didn't save money. This is actually going to cost them quite a bit. So first, let me tell you what cars did in order to be more fuel efficient and in order to make sure that they don't put out as many pollutants, okay? So in order to meet the tougher emissions regulations that went into effect in 2008, most automakers started supplying their diesel cars with tanks of a urea-based solution, often referred to as AdBlue, that cuts down on nitrogen oxide emissions. Now, I'm sure that costs money, and maybe the person who's behind all this thought, well, maybe we can, do something where we can avoid that, make it seem as though our cars are not polluting the environment, and we can still avoid compromising the performance of the car, right? But now they're going to have to pay a lot of money in recalling these cars, changing the technology in them, a maximum possible fine of $37,500 per vehicle, which could add up to as much as $18 billion for Volkswagen and Audi. That's insane.
Well, they won't wind up paying that because it's the U.S. So I don't know how much they lobby already. But if they didn't lobby before, they're going to have to learn how to lobby now. Right? I'm sure they had some presence, but we know this from experience because BP, now which also was not a U.S. company, once they had the disaster in the Gulf, they kicked their lobbying up into overdrive, spent so much money, and they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to avoid billions of dollars in fines. And now we're finding out that, of course, they're not going to pay what they said they were going to pay, and a lot of that was tricks. So right now it looks like an $18 billion fine. But after Volkswagen spends hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying, that'll get knocked down by billions and billions and billions, is my guess if history is any guide in the U.S. Now, nonetheless, I'm open to seeing how they handle this. Maybe since they are a German company, they will handle it differently. And by the way, there's real reason for that. In Germany, half of the board of a company is made up by labor because they want to make sure that they protect the company and they protect their jobs. So now here in America, that would be met with charges of socialism.
Yeah, that would never happen here.
People's heads exploding, Koch brothers defeating every candidate that ever suggested that. But so that'll never work, except Germany has an excellent economy. And it has worked. It's worked really well. So it is possible that Volkswagen will not spend a gargantuan amount of money lobbying. They will not fight the government tooth and nail as U.S. companies do. That they'll, in fact, find out who were the number of people responsible for this, turn them in, and then turn a new leaf and actually pay what they owe. Corporations don't normally do that, but then German corporations are a little different than U.S. corporations because of how they're structured. So it'll be a really interesting test case to see how they react.